Welcome to the New Discovery Christian Podcast, where you'll find Bible messaging and sermons that will encourage, uplift, and challenge you to a godlier life. Join our community and become inspired to continue living a God-directed life.
Welcome again to the New Discovery Podcast. Thank you for joining us and again here in Hernando, and we're going to jump in with a new topic today, what I wish I knew before my first job. So each of us today have at least had a first job or a second job, and I really thought about it because I've gotten a lot of questions about this in the past, especially from teenagers, about what should my first job be, what jobs should I not have, what do I need to know about them, how does my faith play into it, things like scheduling. How do I interact with my manager and other people there? How do I set off dates for like Wednesday nights off for groups and also try to get Sundays off? How does that all play in it, and when do I need to know when to leave as well? And your character. There's a lot of stuff that's going on with that, and there's some things I wish that I had known before I ended up having my first job. So we're going to try to jump in. We'll see what happens with the podcast and where it goes, but hopefully you'll learn a couple things, and maybe I'll learn a couple things from my other two co-hosts here. I don't know everything. So how about we jump in with what were the first two jobs or job that you had or have? So maybe you still have your first job. I don't know.
My official job was, but before that I used to cut grass for one lady consistently, like every year for like 5 years. That was my first job. Yeah.
And then your next one was what you still have.
For 4 years going strong.
Or do you still have it? Because you're going to Oxford. How's that?
Yeah, I'm
transferring.
I'm transferring over there.
All right. Sweet. Still
Cool.
McKinley, how about you? How's that looking with the first and second job?
So after I turned 16, so last summer I was like actually able to work and stuff. I started off having two jobs. So that was always fun. Like when people would ask me like, "Oh, do you have a job?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I have like 3." But what I did is I dog walked like a couple times a week, and then I would also babysit on the weekends or whatever I was off work. And then I also worked at a barbecue restaurant. I was a hostess, like a server's assistant kind of thing. And then I also work at a nutrition shop, which is one job that I still have. So I was always busy with work. That pretty much consumed my entire life, or at least last summer and the junior year of school.
Dang, Kinley's got that experience with all the working woman. Your first, second, third, sixth job on here.
No, I mean, people stopped asking me to hang out because they were like, "Oh, you have work, don't you?" Like, you're probably working. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm working a double today. Sorry."
Yeah, I feel that.
So I guess I reflect on it. Mine's kind of similar to yours, where I remember in middle school, 7th or 8th grade, I know I did it for a couple years. It was, like those farmer markets that are like on the side of the road, and they've got like pumpkins or hay bales and tomatoes. So I worked at one of those for a couple years, and I think it was like right before minimum wage jumped to $7. So like I was making like that $5 an hour kind of thing going on there. And it was like, you could feel it. You knew it needed to be bumped up because you weren't making a whole lot. Because I think I left with like a 20 every day for an 8-hour shift. So pretty rough.
Dude, that's terrible.
Yeah. But my parents were like, money's money. So I did it.
Dang.
But I mean, that was my first job. And honestly, it was not on the books, so there was no taxes or anything going on there. So they kind of kept the money so low to where you didn't get taxed. Yeah. I think that had to do something with it as well, because I still wasn't even making $5 an hour. It was probably like $3 or something. So
I don't think you have to do taxes if you make such low money like that.
And I was like 13, I think.
Yeah,
so in context, I wasn't even like 15 or anything like that having a job.
Oh, yeah. I did have a job then before it was like... I don't know, before I was 16 and I could actually work. I worked for my aunt. She's a florist, like a florist in Memphis and stuff. And so I would do weddings with her. And I didn't realize that that's actually like, there's like adults doing that job. And I was like 14, carrying buckets and working, from 7 in the morning to like 3 a.m. And I was like sitting in the back of a van between receptions and all that. And then my Nana has a bakery or a baking business, and so I would work with her on the weekends and stuff, doing wedding cake deliveries and baking and stuff like that.
Man, I'm going to recommend if anyone wants a job to you, Kinley, because you have like 8, 9, 10 jobs.
At this point, I've had 4 jobs if you don't count babysitting and dog walking.
Dang. Not even 18 yet. Wow. Dang.
I like
So I've
money. I like working.
One job.
Well, I guess I've had I've had 3, so I need to switch gears a little bit. So I had that job at the farmer's market, and then I turned. Okay, it was when I was 19. I decided I needed to get something a little different than that to break the bank, get a little gas money, all that good stuff. And I paid for school out of pocket, so that wasn't going to cut it any longer, the farmer's market. So I got a job simply because they're the first one who got back with me. So I almost got one, but they took like almost half a year to get with me. I was like, I'm already working with
Arab boy over there.
Well, you work with some interesting people, I guess is the best way to put it. Because my brother did it, and he quit in like a month or something like that.
I heard somebody died over there. Like it was something on a plane, like fell off and chopped some dude's head off. I don't know if it was true or not, but somebody told me that worked there that happened, so I just believed them.
Well, I guess glad I didn't get my head chopped off.
Yeah,
That
like
sucked.
a turbine fell off or something did. So yeah, that's put a bad stigma in my brain about.
Yeah. Well, Nestor works for Nestor's probably like, what the heck,
Is that
man?
really, does that stuff happen? Like people dying that like load boxes? Oh shoot!
At least once a year.
Well, I guess that's a part of what the job did was kind of similar. I was the guy who you came in early in the morning. I remember at one point I had a shift at 5 a.m. So I woke up at like 3 a.m. every day. I don't think I was in school at that time. I don't think. Or was I? I don't remember. But I had a shift that early, came in, unloaded the boxes, unloaded the truck. I think I left at like 1, and that's what I first did when I worked. But then they noticed me working with the customers, and like, you seem pretty good working with them. Do you want to come in on the weekends, and we'll cut your shift in the afternoon? Or they said, yeah, that's right, because then I started going to school, and then they asked me, do you want to start working on the weekends instead of the weekdays? Because they were morning shifts. And, school's usually in the morning. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do night classes. I tried it, and I didn't like it. So I wanted to switch over. So then I only worked weekends, which wasn't a lot of hours. And then I didn't work weekdays. And then it was like helping customers and stuff like that. So kind of like I switched different positions in the middle. I sometimes did the other stuff like in the summer times when I wasn't at school, or I had like one class or something. It was no big deal. I took one in the afternoon, like a class. So I guess there's that. And then I've had the experience of gone from like an intern here while doing all that stuff and transitioning to a youth minister and that long process. So I guess all of us have a different perspective, different job context or something like that. So that's pretty good, at least for the conversation. So that's kind of the context for all of us. Now, I think this is going to start to eat into the question a little bit more. What were the first difficulties that you found in having a job? You want to start with that, Javan?
Yeah. I first started out being a bagger, and I would say the biggest difficulty was having to just be on my toes socially around so many people and having to like talk to customers and ask them how they're doing, or just small talk, because I don't like small talk, but you kind of have to when you work at a retail store, because it's kind of rude to just like if they're in their line just not say anything to them, or that's
right.
That's what they told us in the training. So yeah, that was probably mine, and just always having to work, it seemed like every day. You have no life when you have a job, or at least a part-time job, it seems like.
Yeah.
Or when you have
'Cause
2
that
part-time
and school.
jobs and school.
Yeah.
Is that similar? Did you want to keep going? What else? You got anything else? Because that's a good one. I'm going to bring that up. That's a big one, I think.
Yeah, that was mine.
What about you, Kinley? Everything perfect, or was there any difficulties?
There's definitely difficulties. I think with every job that I've had, like every kind of thing that I like went into that I worked with or worked in, and I was always the youngest. Like I was always the youngest one there, whether it was working with my aunt or well, just working with like my Nana and stuff. Obviously, I was the youngest, and then at Vibe, like even all the girls are like in college or at least a year older than me. And then at the barbecue place that I worked at, then I don't know if I was the youngest. I might have been like one of 3 that were maybe the youngest ones there. But you just have to like adjust your mindset that you're there to do a job. You know, you're not just some high school student when you walk into your job or anything. Like, you're there to work, and just, I guess your surroundings are so much different than you're in school or you're in church or you're hanging out with your friends. Like, no, you're at work. And so it's definitely an adjustment, like dealing with customers, dealing with strangers, your managers, coworkers, things like that. You know, there's difficulties there all the time.
That's good stuff right there. I think you nailed a lot of them, I think, right there. Because I know I got some others that are very similar. And I know one thing right off the bat is what you said I definitely bring up is I remembered when I first got the job. I think now the other job I had, like at the farmer's market, I mean, I interacted with people, but there was a couple older folks there, and like I could always lean on them to interact with them. Like, I was just that young lad who just like took the hay bale and like loaded up in the back of the truck. Like, that was me in essence. I mean, there's some older ladies like, oh, aren't you cute? You know, you're filling up the tomatoes, you know, keep up your job. You're doing good. I mean, yeah, but like, that's not really getting social experience, I would say then. I mean, very little bit. But when I got, it was like different, because I remember there when I first got hired, I remember I think it was in the summertime, because then I started school in the fall. I didn't go in the springtime. So I kind of started school late. And I remember when that happened, that summer, almost 90% of the staff just left. Like, they were gone. So they were like hungry for some folks. So, you know, usually when you get a first job, they're like, oh, you need to go on these computers. You need to do training for like a week or something like that. And like, they're like, no, as soon as you get here, like my first day was like a 14-hour shift, like trying to unload an entire truck, like all the pallets in the back. You know, you probably know there's multiple people who do that. Like, the first day, I don't even know how to do it. It was a 14-hour day. And he said, you need to get this all done in a week by yourself. And I was like, is there anyone else who does my position? He said, no, you're the only guy who does this. I'm like, I don't even know how to do it. So then, like, that was rough, that 14-hour shift like that. No training, nothing beforehand. So that was really rough. And then the next day, I did it, and then my manager was like really upset that I only knocked out a couple pallets. And in my mind, I'm like, and there's like 30 back there, and he wants all of them done in a week, and I only did 2 in a day. So that's like, was that like maybe 14 or 15 in a week? And like, so I could only get half done by that. And I was like hustling. I was sweating like crazy. It looked like I went through like a marathon. I was like, I remember I went home and was like, is this going to be like every day of this job? Like for 14-hour shifts? I was like, that's crazy. I mean, I don't mind doing them sometimes, but every day? I mean, again, just sweating, just looking disgusting. I probably smelled disgusting. I was like, I don't know. Then you're around customers like that. I was like, it's kind of embarrassing too. And I was like, I'm going to give another day. And then my manager, I found out, so he was ticked that I just couldn't get it done first day on the shift. And then he worked with me the whole day. And lo and behold, he is a micromanager. And here's an example. So you have 2 examples. So like, you would open a box with a box cutter, right? And I would do it like a certain angle at it. And he was like mad that I did it at like a certain angle, like, and he would like explode because it was at a certain angle. And he was like, no, you need to do it like this angle, like this. He's like, stop doing that. That's wrong. And I was just like, well, I kept doing it. And like, I was still getting done as fast as him. And it was like he just got on to me like all day long. And then I would try to do it his way. And like, you would think, dude, just kind of like back off. I'm just doing the job. You know, at least I'm opening the boxes the way they need to be done. And like, there's 3 ways you cut it. You cut up the middle, the sides, and then you open it. Sometimes you could just cut 2 sides and open it immediately. Well, he had a problem with that, even though it would still open. And like stuff like, and there was like 1,000 things like that in a day. And it was just like, it was like overbearing me. And they're like 14-hour days. And I'm like, and I was working with him like someone who's like that all day long. I was sweeping something. He's like, you don't know how to sweep. And like, he does the same thing as me. And I'm like, oh, dude, can I just like sweep in peace? You know, I'm just like, and so like, I remember that. And I told my parents when I got back, I was like, I want to quit this job. Like, I want to leave when that happened. And my dad, I'm glad I didn't leave, but my dad was like, you know, don't leave the job just because there's some things like that you don't like. He said, I don't think it's going to be like that for the long duration. He's just like, stick with it. I know it kind of sucks, but you got a job. You're making some money. And I stuck with it. And thankfully, the manager somewhat backed off later on. I think they hired someone else, which is what they should have done. They were trying to skimp out on money, trying to make me do what 2 or 3 people should have been doing. And I eventually told them that. I was like, I just can't do that anymore. I was like, I know that you need more people, because I asked one person for this position, and another man was like, heck no, I've never seen that. They usually have like 3, 4, sometimes 5 people. I'm like, and I'm doing what 4 and possibly 5 people should be doing. And she's like, yeah, I know that's not right that they're doing that. But over time, they changed that. But I remember that initially, that working with the manager, and then I'm introverted, so interacting with people on a daily basis. This is back when it was really packed. I mean, I would talk with somewhat of like 200 people a day trying to help them out. Whereas in like beforehand, just graduating high school, maybe I'd talk with like 5 people in a day. So that was a huge difference. And they were like strangers. So I had to like you said, get good at good talk, small talk, which I'm typically not. I was terrible at then, but it helped me get a little bit better. So that was definitely a difficulty for me. I think starting out the job. There's a whole lot more, but you know, maybe we'll hold off on that for a second. But so I think this is going to start to get into some of the meat of the job. What were some character struggles, or on the other side problems that you found? Like, so what were some character struggles? And then on the other side of things, so character struggles have to do with you specifically. And then struggling with the idea of problems with other people, like in confronting them, dealing with them, or coping with certain things that didn't have to do with you.
You want to go first?
I guess, like, if you're working in a restaurant, and especially if you're working a night shift, or even if you're working like a double shift, you know, say I get there at 4 and I'm not leaving until 11 o'clock, and I've already had another job that I came from that I worked until like, you know, 3 o'clock, and I go straight there, then, you know, you're tired, you're a little bit stressed out, you just want to get there, get it over with, go home. I had a lot of days like that, and so I'd be at this restaurant that I'd work at, and, you know, it's fast paced. You know, it's like a Friday night and everything's booming and everything's busy and you're getting stuff done really, really fast and you're bussing tables, and it's just really like fast paced. And, you know, sometimes you just clash with, you know, say like a server, a bartender, a cook, a manager even. And it just, I don't know, I think something that I had to learn was that you just can't like take everything and like let it weigh you down. Like, you know, if I had an argument with somebody, or if I just didn't mesh well with somebody, then I just kind of had to let it go. I couldn't let it affect my entire shift or the job that I was doing there or my performance there. You know, you're just not going to get along with everybody. That's how it is. And then at my other job, it's all girls. And so that's probably just not easy in general. I mean, I love those girls. Like, they're
That made
really
it harder.
They're really great people. And, you know, especially when there's only like 7 or 8 of them total. So it's 7 or 8 girls, the same ones, every single day that you're working with throughout the week for over a year now. Then, yeah, there's going to be some drama because it's all girls every day and there's only a teeny tiny group of you. And it's a small place. So you're just having to deal with like not letting it, I guess, like weigh you down, or still not letting it affect like what you're doing there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. Girls can weigh you down.
That's not what I was saying.
So you just let them go, Javan? Is that what you're saying?
Just kind of let them go.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, you kind of have to. Dang it.
I'm always adjusting it throughout the entire thing too, man. I'm like
you can't
eating
be
the mic.
Gosh,
I can't hear
it's
it.
so loud. You can't be a yes man either. That kind of like what you were saying kind of reminded me of that. You can't just always be saying yes to everybody and trying to please everybody at your job, because it's just not going to happen. It's not realistic.
Yeah.
You kind of have to stand up for yourself, especially with managers like yours that like
Oh, yeah.
sound like they're taking advantage of you. You have to learn to talk back a little in a smart way. You can't just sit up there. I mean, I've known guys that have told managers no and then they get fired. You can't say that, but like, I don't know, have a little spiciness to you. I don't know. Just don't take it from managers and just say yes sir and just be the mule. Like, don't be the mule. Work hard enough, but don't be the mule, I guess.
Don't get walked all over.
Yeah, don't get walked on.
You know?
One thing that I know is, okay, I was talking about the manager being overbearing and very over-controlling, but I got a good story that you've heard before, but everyone else here may not know, and it's like a good example with, I think, your character, because a lot of the reasons that 90% of the people left that summer was because of stuff like that with the manager. And some things, like you were saying, Kinley, some things you need to let go. You're not going to change certain people. What are things that you need to leave your job on? Some things you just need to put up with, and it's just, it is what it is. And some things you need to confront people. So there's some things I let go with him. I didn't like them, but it was whatever. But there was one thing that was not okay. And maybe this will help people with their first job, because this became an issue with me. Is I know I was starting to intern here, so I was 19, 20, I don't know, something like that. And so my manager started putting me on Sunday mornings every morning. And
I've been there.
yeah, so after a while, I kind of just put up with it, because I told him when I got hired in the interview, I said, Sunday mornings I will have off, and Wednesday nights I will have off. I said, I told him in the interview, I said, that's not negotiable. And if it's not negotiable, don't hire me then. Find some other dude.
Strong.
Well, I mean, I was like, if you set the standard, you set
Alpha
the standard.
male.
So, but this is where it was crossed though, however. And then he started putting me on mornings on Sunday. And I was like, did I not tell him in the interview, that's not a shift that I'm going to take. I'll take afternoons and evenings. I don't care, but I'm not taking the mornings though. I told him that. And so it's been 1 month of not going to Sunday services. So for me, it's like, we got a problem here. And eventually a couple of days I said, we need to talk after my shift. Like, I need to talk to you in person about something. And then he would always leave his shift. Like, he would go back home or something like that. And he wasn't here and be like, where's the store manager? I'd ask another manager. She's like, oh, he went home early or something. I was like, I needed to talk to him in person. So he kept kicking that can down the road. And I told him, I need to talk with you. Or I would come in. He's like, I'm too busy or something like that. He's like, whatever this is, needs to wait for another time. And then one time I was like, I'm going to ask over the radio, because we had radios. I said, we need to talk after my shift today. Like, we have. Oh, we're gonna edit that. We're gonna edit that out. I keep saying his name in stories.
I keep almost.
So I told him that we're gonna talk afterward, and then I come in and, well, let me back up for a minute. I talked with another manager, and I told him, I said, what's up with this Sunday mornings? I said, is no one, because my store manager told me, there's no one who's available for this shift. Like, there's no one. You're the only guy. So I asked another manager, I said, is that true? I said, is there no one available for Sunday mornings? I was like, I want to go to church. And I knew in the back of my head, there's some people here who they don't go to church. And I'm like, no one's taking that shift. And other people are like, I want more hours. And I'm like, that's weird. They don't go to church and they want more hours. And I'm the only one available on Sunday? That's weird. And I told him, he's like, man, I want the shift. He's like, I was told it wasn't available at all. He's like, I want the extra hours to pay my rent or something. And I was like, well, he told me he didn't have anyone available. He said, well, he told me there was no one available. That shift isn't available. That same job that I did. I was like, So the next day, so I've caught up now. So the next day, I'm firing up on the inside. Like, there's some fiery coals. Like, I'm burning up. I'm angry. I'm upset. Yeah. Testosterone. Took my testosterone shot, I guess, that next day. And then, I told him over the radio, we're definitely going to talk after my shift today. So I go in, he's typing up stuff. You know, I'm sure he was busy. He's like, no, it's going to happen another day. I told him, I was like, it's not going to happen another day. We're going to talk right now. It's super important, Roberto.
Ooh.
And he was like, oh, he's like, okay. And he puts his keyboard, I guess this is important. And I'm like, so he's already starting off like super sarcastic. And I'm trying to keep a level head. I'm just like, oh, he just doesn't know. But we started talking and I was like, remember how you told me no one was available for the morning shift on Sunday? It's like, yeah, I remember that. I said, well, so-and-so, other manager said he wants that shift, and you told him that that wasn't available. I didn't say anything after that. He was super silent. I was like, I'm going to wait for him to break the silence. I was like, I'm just going to leave that. And eventually he was like, well, Kyle, I don't like religious businesses. I was like, that's weird. I was like, what does that have to do with anything? He's like, Chick-fil-A and all these other places. I don't like them. I don't like how they have Sundays off in the mornings. They give that off for their customers. I don't think that's good business. I think that's wrong to include religion in with businesses. And he kept going off and off and off. And I was like, I'll just listen to the guy for a minute. And maybe there's something, I don't know where he's going at with it, but I'll listen to him out. And eventually I was like, that was kind of all he said. And I was like, I don't care what you think about religious businesses, but I need Sunday mornings off. It's important to me. It's important to me to see those people and they're included in my life. Whatever you think of that doesn't really matter, honestly, because, and I told you when we had the first three interviews actually before I got the job, I will have Sunday mornings off and I will have Wednesday nights off. I said, nothing has changed since then at all. And now you're not giving it to me and you're lying to me and saying that that's not available. I said, we got a problem here. And I said, if that's just the standard rule, then I said, it's just a matter of time until you're going to get my 2 weeks notice, because I'm not going to stay here with not having those days off. And then on top of that, the lying. And he's like, I don't know. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to leave then. You're going to have to start finding someone else. I'll work for a little bit longer, but then I'm going to leave. I said, if you don't want to negotiate anything. And he's like, well, okay, I guess we can maybe work something out. I was like, all right. I was like, we're getting somewhere. I said, I'll come in Sunday evenings if you need that shift. That's fine with me. But Monday mornings is not going to work. I'm not going to be here. So, all right, we'll talk the next day and we'll set your shifts up for the evenings. So, and later on, I kind of thought about that whole engagement, what happened with him. And it reminded me that there was like a couple wrongs that were going on. The first one, part of it was with me. And if I'm honest, I kicked the can down the road and trying to talk with him for a while. And that's why I went on a month. And now I can't make the excuse of saying, well, sometimes he didn't want to talk to me. Yeah, but there was sometimes I knew he could talk and I left my shift. I was kind of avoiding the confrontation, if I'm honest. So there was a character thing going on with me, with confronting and standing up for my values and beliefs and just allowing someone to wrong me and knowing that I needed to be the person who stood up for myself and what I believed in my values and what I thought was that's good in my own life. And no one else is going to do that for me. I'm also not a little victim or something, though I could have made myself a victim and he did that. He lied to me. He doesn't like religion. I could have just quit my job. And I noticed, that's what a majority of people did in the summertime is they just quit their jobs. Because some of them I asked, because the next summer a bunch of people left. It was the same reason. And I mentioned to him, did you ever say anything to him? You ever bring up those things, scheduling? Because there was like single mothers who legitimately needed certain days off to pick up their kids and things like that. Legitimate issues. And no, I didn't say anything. I was like, and I thought about that. That was their wrong, to be fair. That was on them. And I thought about it, is that if I had said nothing to him and I just quit my job, that would have been pretty weak of me to have done that. And you know what? That would have been a wrong on me, not bringing it up to him, because I thought about it, especially later on as I become a youth minister, is I want people to bring up issues that they have to me, and then we can deal with it. If I was in his shoes, regardless of maybe his lying and things like that, I understand that makes it harder. But I would still want people to bring up an issue with me, and then we could deal with it, versus say someone's in the youth group and they just leave without me knowing anything. No parent tells me anything. Maybe it's with someone else. Usually I've seen people leave because someone else got in a fight. There was gossiping with someone else in the youth, and usually that happens. I don't think I've come across where I've done anything. I don't think so. I mean, I hope there isn't. But if there ever was, I always tell them, let me know if you need to text me. I get maybe in person it's going to be kind of hard for you to do that, or a parent can tell me. Just don't leave, though, because I'm willing to accept that I can be wrong in things. And so I kind of thought about that, is that was a character thing with me that needed to be dealt with in that time. But also there was wrongs on him as well. So it's kind of mixed up. It's kind of confusing because, he lied. He said that wasn't available. And then his motive is messed up. He doesn't like religion and religious businesses. Well, that's some pretty messed up reasons and motives and manipulation that was going on there. But still, that was on me to confront him on that part as well, on his side as well with the wrongs. So that's one thing that I kind of think about when it comes to character issues, confronting, dealing, coping. I always kind of remember that when it comes to him, and how I could have alternatively just left. And then maybe I'd be a weaker person. Maybe I wouldn't confront people as often, which I've noticed I confront people in my relationships, friendships, dating, family, at church with certain things better. And maybe I wouldn't be as good, possibly. So the next one is, how did your faith play into getting your first job? So having your first job, in what ways do you feel like faith played a part in that? Do you want to take that first, Javan, if you got something?
I prayed that I would get a job. I prayed before and just kind of trusted God that I would get the job, because I really needed a job to pay for gas, I think. I think that was the reason I needed a job.
Yeah, you need gas to get to a job.
Yeah, so I think I just prayed beforehand, got through the interview, and then just behaved myself for 3 months of probation.
I thought you were saying like probation, like as in like jail probation.
I did too. I was
whoa.
You get like 3 months of if you make one mistake, you're fired. You have 3 months of that. So after the 3 months, you're safe, because it's really hard to get fired.
Dang.
Yeah.
Is that the union thing plays into that?
Yeah, I don't think you're officially in the union until like 8 months in. So yeah.
McKinley, how about you? How's your faith play? Before and while you got the job,
Mine didn't so much play into my job before. Obviously, there was faith. But I think it played more of a part after I'd been working there for a while. Because I think, during my summertime and stuff, when I first started working, I had a lot of free time. So I've always been like a working person. I couldn't just sit at my house. I couldn't just stay home all day. Like, my parents and my friends could tell anybody that I wasn't just like a lay back and do nothing all day person. If I was free all day, then I didn't want to have a moment of free time. And so...
Well, you did have 20 jobs at one point. So.
Yeah, yeah. And I liked that. I liked being busy all the time. But at a certain point, I don't know how to word it. At a certain point, it became more important to me, as awful as I hate saying it, it became more important to me to make money and work and to collect a paycheck than it was for me to be involved in my youth group and involved in church. And as much as I hate saying that, and I don't wish for anybody to have that mindset, originally I was just like you said. Like I said, hey, I need Sunday mornings off. I need Wednesday nights off because that's my youth stuff. That's something like I need to be involved at church. If I have a Saturday night off, I'm going to church. And then over time, after I'd been there for a while, it transformed into, I can work a Sunday morning because that's extra money. And, if they wanted to give me that shift because I was a hard worker, then they were like, yeah, you can have all the shifts you want, whatever you want to work. And so I was like, well, I want to work all the time. So it became like my faith was kind of on a back burner. Like, it was like, oh, well, I can go back to church anytime, but I'm not going to be able to make up this shift. When in reality, like, I could work any day I wanted every week. So I was still going to have that opportunity, but I was like, I don't want to miss work. Like, I don't want to miss, you know, I would like think, oh, well, then I'm losing this much money if I go to church. And that is just such a toxic mindset to have if your faith is really a priority to you. And so eventually I had to be like, when I finally started to try and fix it and say to my manager, like, hey, I want Sunday mornings off, you know, like we originally talked about, you know, months and months and months ago. And then it was an issue because I'd been taking it for so long, like you say, like kicking the can and stuff, that they were like, well, you usually work Sunday morning, so now how are we supposed to find somebody because you've been so willing to work all of these shifts for so long? And so then it kind of led to confrontation down the line with scheduling conflicts and conflicts with coworkers because they had those days off and now they were having to work because I wanted to take off. And if I remember correctly, I was really the only one that wanted Sunday mornings off for church. And so I remember, like, I would get made fun of in the kitchen and stuff like, oh, Kinley can't work Sundays because, you know, she's got church. And so it was like, you know, I don't want to have to put up with that from people that I work with, especially if I'm going to be around them for 6 hours straight, you know, and it led to that confrontation because I didn't make it a priority to begin with like I should have.
Yeah, that's good because actually that's what happened to me. But I'm glad you told it. Instead of me. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not proud of it, but it happens. You know, when you get so busy and stuff that you just don't have your priorities. It's like just getting to the end of the day. It's like just getting stuff done, just working to make a paycheck or to make money. And
I think that's exactly what needs to be said, though, because people need to hear where we've gone right, but also hear the struggles of, hey, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to struggle with things. There's going to be things you haven't encountered before. And I'm glad you brought that up because I think there's people that have / are going to come into that confrontation, and hearing that someone else has gone through it, that'll probably come to their mind now. Because I didn't hear anything about this with my first job, any of this stuff. I didn't hear any podcasts or YouTube, nothing like that. So I kind of just came in just like fresh. And that makes it harder. So I think this can at least help some people when they're jumping in like that, when it comes to jumping in there and, oh, someone else, you know, I'm not just crazy or I'm just a terrible person because I'm struggling. It's no, you're going to struggle with some of these things. It's about, but doing something about it once you start struggling through it, that's what matters. And that's why I brought up with confronting, because I could have said it can just come across as, look at Kyle, look how strong he is, and he went in there and did that. But it's like you didn't know the whole month beforehand, though, of how really that needed to be done way earlier. And it sounds good, you know, after the game with, oh, he went in there and did it, but it sounds like almost as if as soon as I knew, I went in there. But that's not what happened, though. There was a lot of struggles beforehand with myself and, you know, do I want to play the victim? I'm just a victim, and I should just leave and just kind of, you know, snub him by doing that and just maybe don't even put your 2 weeks in and, you know, take that. And people do that, and that's a temptation. And don't confront him. He should already know or something like that. Like, he should know that I should have that off. I clearly even told him, too. It's not even like I didn't tell him. And I could have done that, but then, you know, there I am with all these excuses about needing to confront someone. And again, I think people need to hear that too. You're going to struggle. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to make faults, but don't play the victim. Don't blame other people for things that are responsible for yourself, because you're going to need that later on in life for other things too. With maybe your career one day, you know, might as well get it over, rip the Band-Aid off now with a part-time job and confronting people and dealing with what you need to put up with and not. And then that'll make probably your career later on a lot better because you already have these character traits now and you can use those in that job rather than figuring all this out and maybe messing up a career at one point because you didn't learn these things and, well, I just quit. Well, maybe you're going to quit your career, but maybe you didn't need to. And now there you are, maybe working at when you have, you know, maybe a bachelor's or master's or PhD, not using it because you didn't learn these character traits. All that school's awesome, but you need these character traits too, I think. So I think that's also really important. And I'm glad you brought in the faith aspect too while you're on the job, because I did a lot of praying before I confronted my store manager. And the truth is, when I got that strength, it wasn't my own. It was God's strength. He gave me the boldness. He gave me the strength. He gave me the courage that I needed to do that. I wouldn't have done it without him. So in the end, if it was just me, would have quit the job, never come back, never would have learned anything. But God helped me get through it. So, and there was a lot of praying, like you said, Javan, before getting my job as well. And there was a lot of faith building there. But that's another area where on the job, I grew in my faith as well. I think we should cut it off right there. I think that's going to be good. I think there's plenty of other things we can actually talk about in this discussion. But, thank you for joining in on this podcast with us and what you can learn from getting your first job. And maybe you're going to see a part 2 or 3 possibly. But thank you for jumping in. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit, and we'll see you guys next time on the next one.